Right, tell us a little bit about the car, the flying car, because obviously, you know, you've got a car, again, in the script you must be thinking, how on earth are we going to do this? You've got a very specific old car that has to fly.
It was a streamlined, I think it was a Jowett Jupiter, and of course what we had to do is we had to get the visual effects involved, because we had to see the wings appear to start to come out from the side of the car. Having done that, we would then have to see the model with the wings fully extended, have the model go down the runway and take off, and then have the model fly and then land again. And then you would have to cut back to, I think it was Charles, I'm not sure, who was supposed to be driving stroke flying. And you'd see the wings then fully retract and then start to see the car drive up the hill. I remember that quite well because I was doing little bits of second unit director, so I think I ended up doing the model landing, taking off and flying because we were short of time. But that was also a huge problem in so much as you're trying to find a tunnel. Trying to find a tunnel a car can drive into is very, very difficult because you've got canal tunnels or tunnels with railway lines in or whatever. But there are very few tunnels that are open you can drive a vehicle into. And I can remember being told about one by somebody in a pub there and trying to get permission to film in it and being told categorically I'm not to go anywhere near it because the military were using it. I think I upset a few people over that one.
And does it still exist today?
What, the tunnel?
Yeah.
I have no idea, and I couldn't possibly tell you.
Brilliant. So the Missionary College is Eastnor Castle.
Yes, which is a perfect child's toy fort. I had a toy fort as a young child. All children my age tended to have garages or toy forts sometime in their life. And it's it was perfect for the job because it looked just like the toy forts that children or the parents of the children watching it would have had as a youngster. It's a total folly. It was 19th century, I think, folly. And I can remember walking up the stairs and having it explained that buffalo was shot in the Wild West and that tiger was shot in Bengal. And I can remember making I thought it was funny at the time, Eastnor Castle is a Great Western Railway locomotive, and at the top of the stairs there was the cast plate off Eastnor Castle, and I asked the lady of the house who shot the engine, and that wasn't quite so funny, I don't think. I shouldn't have said it. But the huge scene there, the big denouement, is where the battlements, there's a big explosion, the flames take hold, we've got the flames all the way up the battlements, then the men have to jump off as the boat comes out of the tunnel.
So this is the bit where the police have arrived.
That's it, yes, all hell's breaking out.
Posing as kind of priests and trained priests are jumping off battlements.
That's it, the flames going off, and of course we've had to bring the boat down, the electric boat from the canal tunnel down to there. We've actually dressed the boathouse to look like the hillside, so it looks like it's coming out of the tunnel.
Oh, so this is the boathouse of Eastnor Castle?
Yes, correct.
Dressed as a
tunnel mouth. Right. Because of course boats have been going in and out of tunnels. And I can remember down there with the lady, being with the lady of the house, I can remember everybody there. The first time we did it, standby action, explosion, the flames went up the turrets, the men were up the top there, the cardboard boxes, they'd bang again, they jumped off, landed on the boxes, and I can remember Rennie saying, I want that 10 times louder, I want far more flames, I want a bigger explosion. So we spent quite a while resetting everything, opening up the gas taps, because of course it was cylinder gas that made the flames on the turrets, having to open the vents up on those, getting the stuntmen back up to the battlements, having to reset all the cardboard boxes and mattresses down at the bottom there. And I actually did say, these men are the best. Have no fear, it'll be really loud this time, but everything will be fine. And of course, eventually it was standby, turn action. Massive explosion, and the second one behind that as well, flames going off up the battlements, the guys jumping off the top. It looked fantastic, and in actual fact that explosion is in the BBC Sound Library. It was that because you could hear it. It was more than one explosion because you could hear it coming back from the other side of that valley.
Right.
But plus there was a secondary crump as well. And it was my FM coming up to me about 10 minutes later going, that second explosion was the ornate ceiling hitting the deck in the ballroom. Which I had to explain to the lady of the house, which wasn't well. But things got worse because there was a 3-ton truck doing a 3-point turn in the other side of the castle, at the front, at the ornate front. And there was a standpipe for our water there. And the bang, for some reason, caused the lights at the front to go out. The lorry doing the 3-point turn snapped the standpipe, and this was a giant standpipe. It was one of fire hydrant ones, which resulted in a 30-foot high fountain of water. And the bad news was that the 30-foot high fountain of water was going into the basement, and the big problem was that nobody knew where the stopcock was. And eventually I think we got the military in with mine detectors to try and find out which direction the pipes went so we could find the stopcock and turn it off. But I think that happened about a day and a half later, and by then there was a lot of water in the building. Wow. There was a few insurance claims for that scene. But we couldn't, I mean, those weren't things we could have foreseen.
No, no. Wow. So do you look back on that experience with fond memories? Because I mean, that's, that's at the time though, that's got to be pretty stressful. But
you see, the memories and the brain is such a clever instrument. You remember all the good times. You remember the fun. You can remember travelling on the steam train going up and down. But you don't remember the mornings where you come into work and you're worried sick because there's something missing for the afternoon, or however, all the extras being called, or they said they couldn't provide the extras or whatever. I mean, the rescheduling of a lot of those scenes was a nightmare, because you'd got people coming from, you know, just for the extras. I can remember we moved the scene in the cathedral on by 2 days at one point, and trying to reschedule, you know, a couple of hundred extras or whatever, plus the hotel rooms, plus the catering, plus the power. I mean, trying to conjure up all the problems now is almost an impossibility, but at the time they were real and you were worrying about them. Yeah. But brain's a clever machine and you don't remember that side of the equation.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Now listen, Tony, we've got a few specific questions that have come in from members of the Box of Delights Appreciation Society. And we're just going to ask you a few of these.
Well, I'll answer them best I can. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Nearly 30 years, as you mentioned at the start. So some of these you've covered off. The cathedral was a mix of Hereford and
mainly the interiors were nearly all Hereford, and some of the exteriors were Tewkesbury, where we were using salt for snow.
Okay. The scene where they're floating the boat down the mill stream.
I remember that, yes.
They kind of make themselves small
and get on the boat and travel down.
Do you remember where that was?
Yes, it was somewhere in the, I mean, I can't give you a grid reference, but basically it was in the Wyre Forest, basically from Bewdley heading west into the kind of Bromyard, Wyre Forest area. And I can remember that when we shot, well, I found basically an awful lot of the locations. Once you find your main locations, the other locations you tend to find with the use of an OS map, and I found that one that way. And it followed, if I remember rightly, it followed the way in, followed the route of an old railway line through field after field after field. And I can remember the farmer there promising that the gates would be left open for us. We agreed a payment for the hire. And I can remember arriving there, having to use my bolt cutters to crop my way right the way through every gate, and then replacing the link with one of my padlocks. But yes, I think it was out towards the Wyre Forest somewhere.
Right, okay. There's a scene which is actually set outside Sea King's house, where the kids are building a snowman, and it looks like real snow.
Yeah, it was real snow.
So that would have been shot in Aberdeen
Yes, that was one of the early parts of filming. Right. Which was up in Aberdeenshire. I didn't go on that bit, but that was the garden scene.
I guess what you've got is the reverse shot from the house looking out is actually cheated when you look back at the house. Yeah, okay. All right. We've got a question here about whether the snow was a blessing or a curse for this production.
Well, it was both. I mean, we needed snow, and if there'd been no snow, it would have been very, very difficult. We would have, nowadays you could cheat it to an extent with CGI, but in those days it was a blessing that it was there. We'd planned for snow and it came. Problem was, too much of it came in the wrong place, because trying to get the crew up there and the generator and lights, etc., dining bus or whatever over Shap, they all got snowed in, and I think they were there for a day or two and only got out by lighting fires under the diesel tanks to liquefy the solid diesel.
Incredible, incredible. But I mean, I think one of the iconic things about this series was that those scenes in the snow being real.
Oh,
and seeing those boys kind of
struggling
struggle up, you know, it's up to their waists. They're really straight. Is amazing, because, you know, as a kid, that's what you dream for.
Yeah.
You dream of.
Yeah, you do. And in actual fact, I can remember that as a kid, but most children nowadays can't. I can remember doing my paper round with snow up to my knees. Yeah. But people would laugh, you know.
I love the story that, you know, the production team researched the places in the UK where snow was most likely to hit at certain times.
But it's like anything. If you do your homework, and you do your homework thoroughly and you do it well, there shouldn't be too many things come from left. There will be things come from left field, obviously. Nothing will ever go like clockwork. But you won't get forgiven for making a massive howler, and it will show up very quickly if you don't do your homework.
Okay. Now, we've got a very specific question about a shot where Kay's in the car with Caroline and Louisa, and they're driving home from the station, and there's a shot of a village with a lorry coming towards their car. You see their car.
And they're going away from camera.
That's correct.
Where is that? I can't remember which village, but that scene is a continuation of a scene that we shot, I think, at Highley Station. His arrival was at Highley Station with him getting off and going into the car and driving off. And it's going to be a village somewhere between Highley and Eastnor. We basically used that Welsh Marches edge of the country around there, and it's got to be somewhere down there. I mean, if I got out my OS map now and looked really hard, I might be able to remember, but I'm not sure. It was just a shot of it travelling away, so we would have noticed something somewhere and thought that was better. I mean, basically, it had to be right for period.
So set out at Highley Station and kind of head towards Eastnor, and you might come across it. But is it going to be around that area?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people out there who hold this show very close to the heart. I mean, they watch it every year. They know it very, very well, and it's kind of stuck with this generation.
But most of the locations were either with the snow in Aberdeenshire, on an area between basically Bewdley and Eastnor. Bits done in the London docks for the flooding of the Cell, and of course out in Berkshire. Right. Well, a bit in Berkshire we had to build, because you know the fault with the wolves?
Yes.
We had to put the chain link fencing down 8 feet into the ground and build the whole enclosure to then build our set inside.
Oh, so this is the King Arthur's camp, isn't it, at night, where they're fighting off the wolves? Yeah.
That bit couldn't be done in Scotland. We had to do it. We used real wolves.
Right.
And we were told that if the wolf wants your coat, don't argue, just give it.
So that was a lot of kind of fake snow and
that was we laid that with the use of fire engines, so it was foam and salt.
Yeah. Wow, and that was Berkshire.
Yeah.
Berkshire. Wow.
Yeah, somewhere around Berkshire. There's somebody in Berkshire with a wonderful wolf enclosure, which was part of the deal for using his wolves, that we would build his enclosure for him.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, just coming to the end of this now, Tony. If I were to ask you, if you could pick a favourite moment or a favourite memory working on this show, what would you?
Pick? You can't pick one. I mean, emotionally, I think the mass, because we had the choristers and the choir school from Tewkesbury. We had them from Hereford as well. Plus, we hired in choristers from London. Plus, we had everybody in their ceremonial robes and the congregation of extras, 200 extras in, and just hearing those boy treble voices starting, it brought a shiver to your spine. And basically that's the denouement. They do hold the mass. They get there in time. But then I'm kind of torn because the other side of the coin is spending the best part of a week in the cab of a locomotive going backwards and forwards. That was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, you can't remember the dramatic moments when things don't go right, or actors go sick or whatever. But the fun bits stay with you.
So then, very last question for you, from the view from the inside: was it a dream or was it not a dream?
I couldn't possibly answer that.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Tony, thanks very much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
You're very welcome.
You're obviously working on this. This really has kind of continues to kind of seem to be shown. It's something people talk about. They're showing it to their kids.
It's the most wonderful book, and if you haven't read it, go and get a copy, because it's not a child's book. It's a book.
Brilliant. Well, thanks, Tony, and Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
To those of you who are listening to this, thanks from Raised by TV. Hope you enjoyed it.